Awesome. Anna, how you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
Great, I'm wonderful. How are you? Thanks for having me on
Of
BlockHash.
course, of course. How's your day going?
Everything is going well. I'm here in Tel Aviv, the end of the day, but ready to talk to you and your audience.
What's it like in Tel Aviv? Actually, never been there.
It's sunny, and we're except for enjoying the weather, we're locked in our apartments and our houses, like pretty much everywhere else in the world. So, surviving.
Are they under strict lockdown in Tel Aviv? Or
We are under strict lockdown, although we've had a very active vaccine campaign. So
mm,
I'm very fortunate to be sitting here talking to you after my two vaccines and fully vaccinated. So hopefully the lockdown will be lifting soon.
gotcha. Well, that's good news. Hopefully, yeah, that gets circulated and lockdown ends pretty soon. I'm in Medellin. Most of my audience already knows that, but it's gotten so much better here because it was like hammered back in like March and April and May, and like we were locked down like really tight. But you can't even tell we're in a lockdown other than the mask and the hand
I
sanitizer.
was going
That's
to
about it.
ask, what's compliance like?
Well, they had a lot of rules and restrictions. The thing is, it was like everywhere else, but it's gotten better because we also have the vaccine here too. But they're balancing that with economic activity. They have to get people back to work. Minimum wage is like super low. There's just not enough high-paying jobs out here yet, and they thrive off tourism. So yeah, they can't keep it shut down here.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're on the in the second half of this brutal race of COVID, and the end is in sight soon.
Yeah, yeah, me too, me too. Anyways, Anna, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background. Give me a little bit to help my audience understand who you are and like why you wanted to get into this space. How did you get to Good Dollar? Yeah, so just tell me a little about you.
Sure. So I'm a New Yorker by birth, which I think makes me both an idealist in terms of believing everything is possible of human
Hmm.
potential, but also a realist in terms of how we can do it. And I believe that very much also informs my professional journey. I've always been someone who wants to work in the impact space, wants to work on building, I would say, a better world from one way or another. I actually started my career working in nonprofits, and even though I was working for some of the best organizations in the world, I was able to very quickly see that the NGO model was not sustainable enough to implement the really transformational change that, as a young person, I was hoping to see. And when my background, academic degree, both undergraduate and master's, is in philosophy and economics, so I've always really been interested in tackling those big questions. And I first got interested, I would say we're going to talk a lot today about financial inclusion and working in financial services for, I would say, those that the conventional financial system has left behind. I was
Hmm.
introduced to that area of work while I was at graduate school and kind of forgot about it for a few years as I started a career in B2B technologies. And somewhere around 2017, as the first crypto boom was happening, was really when I became aware of this new technology called blockchain and these new innovations called decentralized currencies, and how this was the potential to banking the unbanked, and we were going to solve financial inclusion, and we were going to solve transaction fees, and one cell phone, one currency, every dream, if you will. But I fell in love with the space intellectually, and I began my career in cryptocurrencies at Bancor Protocol, which was one of the first decentralized finance protocols working on the Ethereum blockchain, and worked across, just saw the potential and wide ranging applications in this space. And a year ago, really spent a lot of time learning the hardcore technicalities of the space and watching a number of these emerging projects grow up and all of the innovation happening. And I moved over to work with GoodDollar as part of, which is part of the eToro constellation, if you will, about a year
Hmm.
ago, because I was so in love with the mission of enabling any person who has a cell phone to access digital currency. So that's a little bit about my personal journey to the space.
Very cool. Very cool. You know, hear financial inclusion a lot. Like when you talk about financial inclusion, like what specifically in that niche are you talking about? Are you talking about just banking the unbanked? Are you talking about access to credit or liquidity or loans or?
Sure. So when I talk about financial inclusion is obviously a huge topic, and there's underbanked or unbanked populations in every country, including the wealthiest countries on earth, right?
Mhm.
I think we take a very broad lens when we look at financial inclusion, and we what I'm thinking about is actually how can we expand the pie of people that can access, hold, and use cryptocurrencies, right? So, as I mentioned to you, I came up in crypto in 2017 through 2019, and we see what's happening in the space. We actually know that there's a very high level of capital inequality in cryptocurrencies, right? It's actually, I don't have the
Yeah.
most updated figures off the top of my head, but the patterns of who holds crypto and at what amount is actually much more abhorrent than what we see when we use conventional wealth indicators, right? So it's funny that you asked about
Hmm.
my personal journey, because I was very much attracted to the concept that, okay, here we have blockchain technologies. This is something that essentially allows for us to solve for so many of the reasons that we've built such an unequal conventional financial system, okay, such as identity, such as
Hmm.
um, the cost element of what it costs to send money, what it costs to settle a transaction. All of these reasons or inefficiencies that exist in our system, our existing banking and financial system, that create a reason why some people are left out, right? However,
Right.
what I saw happening in DeFi wasn't exactly solving for financial inclusion, right? It wasn't actually solving for financial access. Decentralized finance to today is still a highly knowledgeable, wealthy group of individuals who are using their cryptocurrencies to maximize for themselves, right? And that's all well and good. It's free market. But if we want to use public blockchain and blockchain technology to create a more inclusive financial system, then that's a problem that we need to design for and that we need to solve for, right? And the only way that we're going to build products and solutions that deliver on that mission is by using is by according to that being an element of our design principles, right? And so when I talk about financial inclusion, it's actually about how do we lower the barriers to entry in crypto so that it's as easy, simple, risk-free as possible for people to begin to experience working with digital currency, right? And that's a lot of what
Hmm.
we work on at GoodDollar, and is fundamental to our product. And um, when I talk about that's what I when I talk about financial inclusion, it's coming from the position that um, 1.7 billion people remain unbanked, but most of them have smartphones. So fintech itself and mobile connectivity itself is not necessarily leading directly to financial inclusion, and so it's about triangulating those issues.
Yeah, there's a lot of barriers to entry, into this industry. Whether it's the traditional financial system or even crypto itself. Like, you have governments and regulations and financial institutions that make it really difficult for a lot of people to even get into crypto and that kind of stuff. Um, but like, how are you guys tackling these issues with Good Dollar? Like, what's the mission?
So the mission for GoodDollar is focused off of, as I mentioned, um, how do we create a system that allows for every single person that has a smartphone to be able to access and use digital currency. Okay,
Hmm.
this is our driving mission, and what we've done to deliver on that is the foundation has actually built a solution that's designed to give free digital currency away. Okay,
Hmm.
so we're really, when we think of finance. I'll back up for a second. What this means is that GoodDollar users are able to log in every day to a very basic web application, and they're able to claim free digital currency in a token called GoodDollar
Hmm.
every day. Okay.
Okay.
Um, it essentially is a daily distribution of digital basic income. Okay, so we have designed our system to, I would say, according to the principles of universal basic income. This means that every person alive should be able to access basic economic assets, and they should be able to access them as cash, right? And so that's the system that we've built.
Gotcha. It's like a new like crypto basic income. Like you got your own like category now.
It is. That's exactly what it is. I call it a digital basic income, but it's a
Hmm.
crypto basic income. Um, when we talk about basic income, the biggest question that people always ask for, well, how are you going to pay for it? Right? Like, it's a nice idea. Like, how are you going to pay for it? And I think that that's actually one of the coolest, most innovative things about what GoodDollar is doing is that we're actually using all of the value that's locked on the blockchain in smart contracts, um, according to a money flow that enables this basic income to pay for itself,
Hmm.
right? So it provides a way for people who want to use their crypto for good to essentially just allow the interest off of those funds to fund and support the basic income system while they also earn rewards and earn a return. So it's all about how can we start to use these building blocks of decentralized finance and all of these billions of dollars that are now locked in contracts on the blockchain, so that people who have access to these systems are not just maximizing for themselves, but actually
Hmm.
have an option for where they can use their crypto for good that benefits both themselves and, the global world at large.
Gotcha. So are they receiving like different types of cryptos like that are out there, like scraping a little interest off the top of like some of these yields, or is it like projects that are built or working with Good Dollar, or like what types of things are being distributed and given out?
Sure. So the GoodDollar digital income protocol basically enables us to wrap around any yield generation mechanism, and use it to back a token called GoodDollar.
Mhm.
Okay, so essentially what we've done is GoodDollar is a reserve-based token. That means that for essentially, in order to mint more GoodDollars, you need to add more money to the monetary reserve that collateralizes the currency.
Mhm.
Okay, so GoodDollar is not a stable coin, but it's minted according to the amount of funds that are moved into the reserve.
Okay.
Okay, now the question is, how is money moving into the reserve, right? And that's the GoodDollar protocol, is that we've created a standard that allows for us to wrap around any other yield generating mechanism, such as Compound, which is what we're currently integrated with, but soon will be Aave, Yearn, payouts from Uniswap, BNT, like BNT payments, you name it. The idea is that you'd be able to take funds from any place that value or yield is generated around the internet, and through
Hmm.
using the smart contract pipes of DeFi, we're able to basically route those tokens into the monetary reserve, which therefore then mints more good dollars. Um, these good dollars are then distributed, essentially it's split, right? So half of them are given away as the digital basic income to the users of the system, and then half of them basically go back to reward the people that have staked funds into the contracts that support good dollar.
It's really interesting. It's like DeFi meets yield farming in a way, right?
I call it DeFi for good, right? So it's actually
Uh-huh.
how can we use all of the value that's generated on DeFi through yield farming or through liquidity providing, or through whatever the next hundreds of thousands of financial innovations will be. And
Hmm.
how can we do this? How can we do it in a way that gives people a way to still earn a return while also benefiting the world, right?
Right.
And so it's about how can we take, DeFi or decentralized finance is this really nascent field, right? But it's exploding. And there's so
Hmm.
much capital moving into it. And there's so much amazing potential for how that capital flows seamlessly from one contract to the other. And we are really thinking about how can we expand the number of people that this flow benefits, and how can we do it in a way that's not based off of donations but is actually
Hmm.
based off of providing the right incentive structure so that people will say, okay, yes, I am going to use Compound as a savings and loans protocol. And yes, I trust these smart contracts. And yes, I'm willing to accept a 6% yield payout instead of an 8% yield payout because I know
Hmm.
that my impact investment is doing good for other people as well. And I fundamentally believe that people want to do good, right? That people
Right.
actually want to make a positive impact on others and on the global world. I also fundamentally believe that particularly people in this space are looking to, are hungry to do something good with crypto. They're hungry to build a financial system that is more efficient, is more equal, provides
Hmm.
more opportunity. And so that's fundamental to everything that we do is is really building the good dollar protocol to be um, a market incentivized place where people can easily stake their crypto, make a statement about how they want to use their funds, earn a return, and do good for the world at the same time.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You guys are completely removing that barrier to entry because it sounds like all you need is a smartphone and like Wi-Fi, to be able to actually access this and utilize what Good Dollar brings to the table. And it also sounds like you guys, in a way, have solved some of the issues with the idea of universal basic income, where you either have to have a high tax or you have to have an inflationary system where you're printing like more fiat to make it happen. Like there's some issues with that, but doing it this way, where you have a decentralized ecosystem where there's tons of different projects in DeFi and where else that are producing yields and things like that, where you can scrape a little bit off the top and you can do something like this. Um, Digital basic income actually sounds like a pretty realistic idea. So it's really cool to see you guys doing that because I haven't seen anyone take that viewpoint in DeFi yet. Like I've heard some talks about types of crypto basic incomes or digital basic incomes or airdrops for everybody, but I haven't heard of it from like this perspective, and it makes a lot of sense what you guys are doing.
We're tackling it from two angles, right? How do you actually lower the barriers to entry in terms of the access, right? So that's actually focused off what's the product, what's the user experience. And for this, that's, like you said, it's all about building a very simple web app that works on mobile, that all you need is Wi-Fi for it. And one of the things that we've done is we've made it so that you can create a digital wallet using your Facebook account, using your Google account. Um,
Mhm.
this is designed for people who don't have a MetaMask, right? Um, and it's actually about merging the best of both worlds from those centralized services and the ease of use that they provide to people and the ease of account creation, etc. But at the end of the day, what you get is a non-custodial wallet where you're actually holding your crypto on chain, right? So that's from the
Mhm.
access point of view. The other element that you mentioned is the financial incentives, right? So
Yeah.
what's the economic model that enables this digital basic income system to be sustainable and therefore scale? And that's a little bit about that's the theory behind our impact investment model, which is very much based off of a proven model used by nonprofits such as universities or other trusts or foundations, which are based off of, okay, let's build an endowment, and then based off of the endowment, we will have a certain amount of operating capital to fund our programs. We've taken a similar type philosophy um, to building the good dollar economic model, which is we believe that there's a lot of people out there who currently aren't earning a return on their capital in their bank account and also would like to do good with it, right? So let's actually
Mhm.
provide a way for them to, instead of saving their money in a traditional bank, they can save it in a stable coin locked in a protocol where they'll earn a much higher yield than they would in a bank account, but with the additional benefit layer of generating that income for everyone. So that it's a constant balance between providing better access, providing the right incentives, and then hopefully wrapping it all together into a system that has real scale potential.
Yeah, it sounds like the access, exposure, the inclusivity part, it's definitely there. So you can check that one off. My only concern would be like if someone, is receiving these different cryptos, they're getting exposure to them, maybe they're generating a little wealth out of it. How are they guaranteed to be able to spend it if they're in some other country or some other jurisdiction that isn't friendly to crypto? So is the next step, promoting merchants accepting this stuff or finding ways that they can use it to pay their bills or to pay an expense or to um, use it to buy food or water? Because I feel like that's the only other gap.
So it's a great question. I would say that right now it's not practical,
Hmm.
okay, to expect that someone's going to use their good dollars um, to say pay their rent or buy food in a grocery store or pay their utility bills. It's
Hmm.
also the same way that I don't use the cryptocurrencies that I have for those use cases, right? It's just not
Right.
actually the most efficient, right? Um,
Hmm.
now, I what I actually where I see us adding the most value is how, on an individual level, are we increasing your economic activity and your economic capacity? And of course, we're in crypto, so we're also talking about community, right? So therefore, as a community of people, we have 100,000 good dollar users worldwide in over 180 countries, right? How can that community working together increase their economic activity and their economic potential? And so that, the fiat currency that they do have can be spent on grocery, rent, utilities, etc. And so I think it's actually about how can we add on top of this, on top of the fiat money that we have, how can we add a value layer to this social community aspect that enables us to do more with what we have. And this is where we see the really cool stuff happening from the GoodDollar users. And if you don't mind, I'm just gonna keep going and give you some
Yeah, go for it.
examples. First of all, people are hungry to expand their economic activity. We've seen over 40 different community initiated marketplaces that are designed for the GoodDollar community to basically congregate and meet other peer-to-peer people within which you can do commerce. Okay. We have our examples of people I have some cool examples of like a guy who sold a bike on using his GoodDollars to a neighbor. I also have some cool examples of people who did a bake sale using GoodDollars and things like that. But where we actually see there being real global and scalable potential is actually people using these marketplaces to be a bit more like a crypto Fiverr. Okay, so by design, not by design, by happenstance, many of the people who are using GoodDollar are early adopters, right? They're digital, they're online. Many of them are people who have skills in digital services. They're designers, they're developers. They can teach they're multilingual, right? They're copywriters, etc. So you actually see this fascinating crypto Fiverr layer develop where people are actually using GoodDollar as a layer to facilitate skill swapping, right? And barter and this, that, or the other thing. So that's a really interesting use case because it also exemplifies the power of crypto, right? There's one story that came from the community of a graphic designer in Cuba that designed a logo for an emerging entrepreneur in Tanzania. Okay. They were able to exchange payment totally free with no currency transaction, right? Like that's the dream. Otherwise, there's no way that a designer in Cuba would be able to sell their services to a budding entrepreneur in Tanzania, right? And so I think that's where we start to get into the use cases that are really interesting. The other thing that the other area where we see GoodDollar being used is for entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship, right? So people who have who have their own businesses, whether it's a gift card business, whether it's a community building business, whether they're a content creator, and have started to incorporate GoodDollars as part of their own workflow in building their own businesses. And so I think this just starts to show you how social money is a really powerful tool, especially within the context of a community that will use it, right? And I believe we're only getting started. The project has been live for 4 months now, 5 months, and we've seen 100,000 people pick up the project and start to use GoodDollars and start to experiment with GoodDollars. And I think that we're giving real digital currency away with the hope that people will find it useful for to make their lives better, whatever manifestation that takes.
Only 4 or 5 months? That's crazy. I remember you saying before we start this, you guys are like number 3 in the world. That's incredible growth.
Yeah. So according to DApp.com, which is a smart contract tracker, GoodDollar actually is the top 3 project by number of users that are interacting with our smart contracts. So as I mentioned to you, that's 100,000 people that have created their own non-custodial wallets that have actually begun to interact with money on chain, right? So it's not people. I I love eToro, I love Coinbase, I love Binance, I love all the centralized services, but it's not someone who's actually, it's not the traditional, I would say, entryway into crypto where you create an account and you swipe your credit card and you have to basically, you have to take a risk to enter crypto, right? You have to buy in, you have to put money on the table. And for most people, they have trepidation about digital currency, and with good reason, right? They're scared.
Mm-hmm.
They're scared about what the currency is. They don't understand why it's useful. They don't understand why they need it. They don't understand if it's a scam. They don't understand 12 words. They don't understand. Everyone's read
Yeah.
a horror story about some guy who threw away $47 million worth of Bitcoin in the trash, right? So I think real
Mm-hmm.
people are trepidatious with good reason. And part of our mission is to actually provide that not scary, easy on ramp into your first non custodial wallet, into the first token you might actually hold on chain, sending and receiving money in a peer to peer fashion on chain with your friend, with someone who also can be non technical, and really, act as a meaningful on ramp into a much larger decentralized ecosystem.
Gotcha. Anna, it sounds like you guys are on a roll. This is really cool. I do have to get to a meeting pretty soon. So one more question before we completely wrap up. What's your guys' plans for the rest of 2021? Like, do you guys have a roadmap? Do you have other things you want to do to expand on Good Dollar to reach more people or to promote it more? What's the general plan?
Sure. So, I would say our plan for the remainder of the year is really focused off of launching the rest of the staking offer of the protocol
Mhm.
so that anyone will be able to easily stake via a meaningful UX, UI, and actually use GoodDollar, right? So like to actually be able to use the staking capability in a user-friendly way. And as part of that, launching our governance model, which will enable the community to actually determine the next steps. We also are focused off of uh, continue to expand our partnerships, right? So continuing to expand the number of places where people are able to use GoodDollar, and places where they can hold it. And another meaningful thing that we're working on is we're sponsored by eToro, which is the world's largest social trading platform. And one of the things we're working towards as well is thinking about how can we actually show GoodDollar to be an amazing offer for where people can do good with the crypto that they already have, right? And that doesn't just go for
Mhm.
eToro, but it goes to expanding throughout the space of all of us who are early adopters, early speculators, and really offering GoodDollar as a way for us to use some of the funds that we have to grow the space, which is in all of our interest, and to expand that pie for other people. One other thing that I have to just put a plug in here is that for all of you guys who are listening, go to wallet.gooddollar.org. It's so simple and so easy to sign up. And we just released our referral program. So now once you sign up, you'll also get GoodDollar bonuses for inviting your friends.
Sweet. Yeah, send me all the links for that stuff too, and I'll be sure to put it in the description for the episode and on social media when it goes out. But anyways, Anna, thank you for taking the time to come on and talk about Good Dollar. Really appreciate your time. I'm sure you're a very busy woman, and it's really interesting what you guys are doing. I like this idea of digital basic income, and how it can solve a lot of these problems. So it was awesome for me to get to learn a little bit more about it. And I'm sure a lot of other people will enjoy, also learning about this as a concept and as a practice. So again, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I really believe that we're just getting started, and I hope your audience as well is inspired and moved by what we're doing.
I'm sure they will be. So stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
You too. Bye bye.